A devastating fire spreads through the forest and firefighters struggle to contain it. The flames are intense, and one of the firefighters, terrified, tries to flee but is consumed by the fire. Hannah, a firefighting specialist, watches the terrifying scene and sees children begging for her help in the middle of the flames. She wakes up terrified in the middle of the night and discovers that it was all just a nightmare. In Fort Lauderdale, Florida, two men knock on the door of the district attorney. Jack, a firefighter, and Patrick from the gas company inform her that the system detected a gas leak and ask permission to check it. The woman tries to refuse, but Jack insists it's for the family's safety. After a few hours, the two leave the property suspiciously. Patrick asks how long it will take to reach Jacksonville, and Jack responds that the drive takes about 6 hours. Upon noticing bloodstains on Patrick's clothes, Jack suggests he change before they leave, as in half an hour most roads will be closed due to the incident. As soon as they leave, the property is completely destroyed by an explosion. In Jacksonville, Owen Casserly and his son Connor are the criminals' next targets. Owen sees a news report about the tragic accident at the prosecutor's house, where he and his family died due to a gas leak. Frightened, Owen asks Connor to get ready for school, but upon arriving, he observes everyone with suspicion. A police officer approaches, informing him that he needs to clear the road, and Owen decides not to take Connor to school, accelerating the car. Connor, confused, asks what's happening, and Owen responds that they need to escape. Connor tries to send a message, but Owen quickly takes the phone and warns him, explaining that they're in trouble because he did the right thing. Hannah was present at the graduation of new firefighters. While the veterans talk and have fun, the local police officer Ethan appears to greet them. He asks why they put Hannah in the watchtower. With discontent, she responds that maybe it was luck, adding that her boss loves to waste talent. Ethan questions which tower, and Hannah explains that it's close to his. After the conversation, Ethan says goodbye to the veterans, and Hannah's colleagues joke that she's in love with Ethan, and in a way, she doesn't deny it. Later at the rookie party, the colleagues have fun while Hannah shows dissatisfaction and decides to act. A colleague rushes into the bar and informs his boss, Ryan, that Hannah did something unexpected again. She climbs into a pickup truck with a parachute, defying Ryan's warning that she doesn't have permission to do so, since she hasn't completed the course. Ignoring him, she asks the driver to accelerate, and soon opens her parachute, but lands on the shoulder because she used the equipment at a low altitude. Ethan appears serious and arrests her for disobeying. Hannah tries to argue, but he responds that he can't do anything else, since she always seeks trouble. Arriving at the police station, Ethan comments that Hannah's actions aren't for fun, but to prove herself to others. She remains silent, and Ethan suggests that some time in the tower could help her improve. Meanwhile, the pair of assassins arrives at Owen's house and begins searching the location for him and Connor, but fails to find them. Jack goes to the kitchen, fiddles with Owen's computer, and discovers that he's already aware of the situation and decided to flee. He warns Patrick to look for clues around the house and mentions that Owen withdrew $10,000, deducing that he plans to hide. Patrick finds a portrait of Owen with Connor at the rescue school, which is also where Hannah works. Jack gets excited about the discovery and comments that they now have a new lead to follow. Meanwhile, Owen explains to his son the reason for the escape. He reveals that he works as a forensic accountant and found discrepancies in the numbers. Because of this, his superior was murdered, and Owen believes that, following his father's intuition, he will be next. Ethan returns home and finds his wife Allison, who is pregnant. Allison comments that she heard he arrested Hannah, and Ethan explains that he did so because she disobeyed his orders. Allison tries to defend Hannah, revealing that the two had a relationship in the past. Ethan doesn't want to discuss this with Allison, and she agrees, warning that dinner is ready. As the couple relaxes, the phone rings. It's Owen, who asks to speak with Ethan and says he's gotten into serious trouble, needs help, and is on his way. The next day, Ethan meets with the sheriff to update the situation. The sheriff asks what he knows about Owen, and Ethan reveals that Owen married his sister and that Connor is his nephew. The sheriff mentions that he can't do much, as the case is the FBI's responsibility. Ethan says he's already tried that, but Owen wants him to bring reporters, and the sheriff quickly asks him not to do that. He requests to be informed when Owen arrives, as he wants to meet with him personally. Meanwhile, in the watchtower, Hannah spots a large storm cloud and tries to alert the command. Hannah is reprimanded for reporting something considered unnecessary, and her superior asks her to only call again if she sees smoke, then hangs up. Meanwhile, she remembers the tragedy from the past and blames herself for not having saved the children. On the verge of a breakdown, she receives a call from her former colleague, Ben, who was also in the devastating fire and was also assigned to a watchtower. Ben mentions that the psychological evaluation done on her 3 days after the accident was terribly cruel and that neither of them passed it. He adds that the Forest Service is looking for someone to serve as a scapegoat in its place. Hannah blames herself for having misinterpreted the wind direction. Ben reassures her, saying that she made a mistake, but it doesn't define who she is. Hannah mentions that she should have entered the fire to save them, claiming she was a coward. Ben responds that she would also have died, and before hanging up, asks her not to do anything stupid. Hannah asks if Ben can see the storm cloud right in front of the tower. Ben confirms that he can, and believes the storm is moving north. Hannah emphasizes that that's exactly the problem, because the storm is not going north. Owen and his son approach Ethan's house, while the assassins are already in the area. Jack warns Patrick that this location was chosen to eliminate the man and his son, and they begin preparations. Hannah notes that the storm is approaching and fears what might happen. A lightning bolt strikes nearby, causing her to investigate. She sees several lightning bolts hitting the region, and one strikes the tower she's in. While trying to descend by rope urgently, a lightning bolt hits the pulley, causing her to fall. Hannah hits her head on the ground and loses consciousness. Hours later, Hannah wakes up feeling useless. Owen approaches the trap, while Jack pretends to change the tire. When the car approaches, Jack and Patrick open fire together. Owen is hit in the arm and loses control, and manages to run over Jack in the process. After Patrick's shots, the car plummets down the mountain. Owen quickly recovers and asks Connor to hide in a fallen tree nearby, without making noise, regardless of what he sees. Before leaving, the young man receives a letter from his father, asking him to deliver it to a TV station. Connor runs to hide, while the pair of assassins reappear above. To distract their attention, Owen accelerates the car, causing the men to shoot. Owen is killed, and his car is thrown even further down. While Connor watches helplessly, the scene unfolds. They consider investigating the car, but another vehicle suddenly appears, disrupting their plans. A woman approaches asking if everything is okay. Jack responds that it is, but soon shoots her. Then he parks the car near the tragedy site and continues the journey with his partner. Connor follows his father's advice and begins following the river in search of a city to ask for help. Ethan passes by the crime scene, spots the woman's car, and decides to stop. As he approaches, he finds the woman dead, and following the trail of destruction, discovers Owen's car thrown down the mountainside. While Jack and Patrick hear the news on the radio and discover that Connor wasn't in the car, they're surprised by a call from the boss, who asks for a personal meeting. Patrick asks why, and Jack, furious, calls the boss useless. Meanwhile, Hannah is at the edge of a river, tormented by tragedy, when she notices Connor's presence. The frightened boy doesn't trust her and runs away, but she's agile and manages to catch up with him. Hannah wants to know where the blood is from, but Connor says it's not his and doesn't reveal more. She introduces herself as part of the Forest Service, offers help, and mentions that she has a radio to call the police. Connor pretends to trust her, then kicks her and tries to escape. Annoyed, Hannah wishes him good luck and warns that the city is 19 kilometers away. As she leaves, Connor asks her to wait and says he can't call the police but rather journalists. Hannah offers to contact them and he begins to follow her. The pair goes to meet the boss, and Jack asks Patrick to wait, revealing that he will go alone. Arthur is the mastermind and disapproves of Jack for failing to eliminate the boy. Jack claims he didn't know about it, and Arthur says the boy must have a copy of the document from Owen's office. Arthur warns that the situation could worsen if the boy isn't eliminated, and asks Jack to act quickly. Jack says the mission will be complicated, but Arthur states he has only 6 hours before everything goes out of control. The pair disguises themselves as federal police officers, but Patrick disagrees with killing a child. Jack shares the concern, but says the powerful don't care and will eliminate anyone who crosses their path. Patrick warns that this will draw the city's attention, which is bad because they're on alert. Jack responds that they can attract more attention. He grabs flares from the trunk and throws them, starting a large fire. Ethan, while looking for his nephew, abruptly stops the car upon noticing the forest fire. In the watchtower, Hannah tries to communicate via radio, but remembers that the tower was damaged. She reports that everything was destroyed and emphasizes the urgency of reaching the city, questioning whether they should leave now or wait until morning. Connor can't contain his tears. Hannah asks if there's anyone else to rescue, but he says he doesn't want to talk about it. She understands that he's not ready to face his demons. Connor opens up and says that his father told him to look for someone he could trust if something happened to him, questioning whether Hannah is that person. She confirms, and he hands her the letters. When asked where the men found him, he responds that they were ambushed on the road. Hannah, aware of the dangers, informs the young man that they need to leave as quickly as possible. The assassins go to Allison, presenting themselves as FBI agents and asking for Ethan. Suspicious, she steps back and asks them to speak with him by radio, but Jack says the frequency is different. Jack asks if he can come in, and Allison agrees, but when she tries to attack him, she's quickly restrained and thrown to the ground. Patrick, investigating the house, discovers that she's pregnant and warns Jack. Taking advantage of the situation, Jack declares that the fate of her child depends on her answers. Although Allison insists she knows nothing, Jack doesn't believe her. They decide to use a hot iron to force her to speak. When the iron approaches her face, Allison makes up that the boy is with Ethan and that she can contact him, and Jack asks her to do so. Allison calls and asks about the boy, but Ethan says he's helping to contain the fire. She pretends he's with the boy, but Jack notices the distress signal and punches her. Jack throws her near the fireplace and approaches. Allison grabs a blowtorch to protect herself. Jack says she's pointing in the wrong direction, but she quickly activates the blowtorch and begins to burn Jack. Patrick protects himself while Jack tries to extinguish the fire. Allison runs to another room and returns with a gun. She runs toward the door while the attackers shoot at her, but she insists on escaping and succeeds. Hannah walks with Connor, and as they approach an open field, several lightning bolts strike the area. She says they need to go down the hill and will take turns running. When she signals, he stops and she continues. The pair quickly begins running through the lightning-filled field. Connor is ahead, but Hannah passes in front. She is struck by lightning and loses consciousness. Connor runs to check on her and asks if she's okay. Hannah responds that she is and says it was a grazing blow. Hannah says that they need to move forward, and Connor breaks down in tears as he remembers that his father was killed in front of him. Meanwhile, the assassins search for Allison, but fail to find her and notice a police car approaching. The two quickly find a place to hide. Ethan gets out of the car with the sheriff, but he's shot and ends up dead. Ethan begins to shoot back, but is quickly surrendered by Jack. He orders Ethan to lie on the ground while he asks some questions. He comments that his wife will be eliminated for lying and burning his face. Then Jack asks where the boy is, and Ethan informs him that he hasn't been found, believing that he was thrown from the car. A search team was sent to rescue the boy, but due to the fire, all operations were postponed. Jack states that they will find the boy. Patrick, reluctant to kill a pregnant woman, warns Jack that they don't have time to locate them. Jack agrees and decides to take Ethan with them. In the forest, Hannah tries to cheer up Connor, saying that all of this will just be a bad memory, while she makes a fire to warm them. Connor smiles at her jokes and says that she's become important to him, observing that she seems sad. She decides to tell him about the fire that cost her her job and the lives of innocents. She says she feels guilty because instead of putting out the fire, they simply fled in fear. Connor mentions that he saw his mother die of cancer and couldn't do anything. Hannah jokes, saying it's impossible to suffer in front of him. Ethan arrives at the accident site accompanied by the assassins and comments that there's no way the boy could be safe, as he's seen many accidents like that. Jack responds that that's good for them, as it will be easy to find him, and asks Ethan to help with the search. Ethan begins to search the area and moves near the river, where he finds the boy's footprints, but quickly turns off his flashlight. Patrick notices this and asks what he's doing, but Ethan can't hide the trail. Patrick spots that the boy is alive, and Jack says they will use Ethan's tracking skills for the search. Ethan, frustrated, declares that he won't help them anymore, and says he knows how this will end. Jack tries to convince Ethan to take the opportunity, but he, annoyed, warns that if they leave him alive, he'll tell others where they are. Jack insists that he won't do that. Ethan snaps, and Patrick asks permission to eliminate him, but Jack remains silent. Ethan lunges at Jack, who overpowers him with Patrick's help and threatens him. Frightened, Ethan decides to cooperate. Hannah and Connor walk and spot a large fire. Terrified, Hannah insists they go back to alert the rescue group, but Connor wants to move forward. Upset, She asks him to obey her and go back with her. Connor, with no options, agrees and accompanies Hannah back. Allison returns home, finds a tracker, and discovers Ethan's location, deciding to mount her horse to find him. In the tower, Hannah treats her wounded feet with alcohol, and looking through binoculars, she sees that Ethan is with two strangers and asks Connor if he can identify his father's killers. Upon doing so, Hannah asks him to hide under the bed. The pair below the tower discusses the number of guards, and if they're armed, Ethan believes they are. Jack comments that this makes climbing difficult. They decide that Ethan will go up and come down with the boy, and if he doesn't return, they'll set fire to the tower. Ethan climbs quickly, warns the others to stay quiet and not move. While the pair move to a higher place, Ethan asks Hannah if she has a gun, and she says she only has an axe, which he considers useless. Expressing uncertainty about survival, Hannah mentions that fire will arrive in an hour, which might save them. Jack observes everything and says they need to be quick, as he's feeling bad. Patrick, noticing that Ethan is talking, opens fire, hitting Ethan, who escapes because of his vest, while they sneak along the ground. Hannah descends the pulley with Connor and begins to flee, while Ethan stays behind. The assassins lose sight of the two and go after them, but are interrupted by a shot fired by Allison. Patrick asks Jack to take care of the shooter and goes after the boy, soon separating. Hannah and Connor find each other again in the enormous fire, and she asks him to keep walking. Jack, in confrontation with Allison, advances firing uncontrollably. Allison's bullets run out, but as she exits her hiding place, she hits Jack in the chest. He pleads for his life, but she ignores him and asks where her husband is. Jack reveals that he's in the tower, but doesn't know if he's alive. The two reload their weapons. Jack tries to shoot, but is hit again by Allison in the stomach. Before being finished off, he says he hates this place. Meanwhile, Hannah calls Connor back and explains that he needs to continue toward the fire to find a river to hide in. Reluctant, Connor promises that he will survive and goes on his way. In the tower, Allison finds Ethan wounded and realizes the severity of his injuries. She informs him that she finished off one of the assassins, but Ethan asks her to escape and survive. Allison responds that she can't and asks him to look to the side, noticing that the fire is very close to them. Meanwhile, Hannah notices Patrick approaching and runs to hide, while he searches for them. Patrick finds some traces heading toward a tree and decides to investigate. Upon arriving there, he's nearly hit by Hannah and begins to shoot, but she takes an opportunity and runs to another tree. Patrick tells Hannah that she doesn't need to lose her life because of the boy and asks her to leave, promising not to shoot. At this moment, Connor appears and catches Patrick's attention, who quickly aims his gun at him. Hannah takes the chance to attack him, but Patrick quickly restrains her. When he's about to kill her, the two attack him at the same time, but Hannah tells Connor to run, and he obeys. Hannah exchanges punches with Patrick, but is quickly restrained. He drags her, threatening to kill her if Connor doesn't appear. Patrick punches Hannah, promising to stop if the boy leaves, but warns that he'll hurt her if he continues to hide. Connor asks Patrick if by coming out he will let Hannah go. Patrick responds that he won't and promises to give her a quick death. When he's about to hurt Hannah, Connor asks him to stop. Patrick approaches and requests that Connor turn around, promising just a headache. At that moment, Hannah appears from behind and attacks him with axe blows, deciding to let the fire finish him off while she flees with Connor. Patrick dies burned, and Ethan and Allison remain in the tower, waiting for a helicopter. Meanwhile, Hannah and Connor try to escape the fire that advances fiercely, but manage to find a river and jump in. Hannah asks him to breathe deeply and dive with her, and the two do so. A few hours later, the fire goes out and they manage to escape. Hannah asks him to hurry to get out of there. In the tower, Allison survives and spots a rescue plane approaching. Firefighters jump from parachutes and as they descend, notice that Hannah and the boy are approaching. The team divides for rescue. Hannah's friends discover that she's okay, but Ethan doesn't survive his injuries. Connor confesses to being afraid of the future, but Hannah comforts him, stating that they'll find a solution together. Soon after, reporters and federal agents arrive at the scene, and several people gather to put out the remaining fire. And so we end the film.